Hi, my name is Aksik, aka Annika, and welcome to what I sincerely hope is the last part of the coloring process for this wonderful and fun image. I'm not going to give the whole spiel of the origins of that image again. You've probably seen it in the previous parts if you followed it, and if not, you can check it out in the previous parts. I'm just saying that it's a wonderful, wonderful page by RJ Hampson, and love his work, and I consider him one of the best, absolutely best coloring book artists of current times. Anyways, let's get moving. So we have started with pencils, and we did a fair bit with pencils already. I'd say big parts might be done, but I might be wrong. So I want to do this and this and this. So the bunny, the hamster and the cat, and let us start with the bunny. So I'm working with polychromos, as you might be already aware. So I'm pulling out brown ochre, and I'm also pulling out bistre. I might change my mind and go for something a bit darker as well. I'm just in case taking out also burnt umber. Now, my problem with polychromos, as usual, is that there is shortage of lights, but I've heard, maybe you have heard as well, that they are now coming out with 20 new colors, and a fair bit of them seem to be light colors. So I can't wait to get my little dirty paws, well, chunky dirty paws. So here we are. I took also out white. And I kind of want to, I want something lighter as well, but I don't know if I really need that. I, want something lighter, beigeish. I will pull out my Broadphone macaroons, which are my supplementary set. Usually, if I need pastels or light colors, then I'm grabbing these. So the first thing I'm actually taking is Venetian red, and I am, the bunny inside the bunny ears here, because it's very clearly drawn like a separate area. It's supposed to be kind of pinkish, and I'm just flicking upwards from the bottom with Venetian red. Do we have any other ears that need a bit color? I'm sticking it into the cat's ears as well, just a little bit, and into the hamster's ears, although, you don't need much here. But tiny bit is beneficial. So I'm sticking it back here, and I'm taking out, I think I want warmish pink. Do I have anything? Yeah. We have dark flesh, which is 130. And I'm just kind of filling in the top with it as well. It's not a huge contrast, and I wanted to keep the color fairly natural. Now I should, sorry, it's my fake coffee here. It's Saturday here in the Casa Aksik. And I'm filming during the day, and I hoped, I might be able to film during the day. I will have natural light, but it's so overcast. It's so grey and dark outside that I'm still filming with the lights on. So there we go. That's life for you. Anyways, I'm going to get you a bit closer, so you can see better what I'm doing. I might even, I don't know if I'm going to get you to the zoom come all together. Okay, I need to change the position of the page because of the spot where the zoom lands on. So let's hope I won't forget. All right, so I'm now going with the dark flesh all the way, and I'm also dropping that dark flesh a little bit into the fox's ears. It's just, there's shadow there already, but I just want to give a bit of more interest and color variation there, and maybe in the cat's ears as well. It's going to be almost invisible here and on top of these colors. But even with almost invisible, it does give a bit of more life and interest. it is more visible in real life than it would be on the camera, to be honest. And now I feel that I actually wanted a little bit stronger contrast here because it's very similar. So I'm taking dark red, which is like scary. I'm going to the very bottom of the ears and flicking gently upwards. And literally, a bit of a, medium or harder pressure at the bottom and then almost flicking to nothing. And that's the easiest way to get a quick gradient down in a smaller areas like this. In a bigger areas, that of course, won't work as well. But in a small, narrow area, that pretty much is perfect. Now, working away now on the bunny, I kind of have established somewhat the shadows already. So I'm taking my brown ochre, which is kind of the mid-tone or lightest of the colors I have in my hand. And I am going over the kind of a transition area of where I put the shading. You can see there's alcohol marker shading, which is all shown in the first parts of this video. So 1 and 2. Parts 1 and 2 were both alcohol marker. So I'm essentially going over the transition area from the darker to lighter here. And I'm diffusing that into the light. I might need to take a lighter pencil here as well. Quite possibly, but we'll see. And then I'm dropping it to the bottom of the ear here as well, where there's a lighter area. So there would be a bit of color variation here as well. So it wouldn't be just flat one color all across the ear. And here, when on top of the nose, there's, I'm kind of trying to create a bit of a dip in the face so it wouldn't look as egg-shaped, which, often happens. So I'm trying to give a bit of a shape to it. And I'm also putting it here underneath the nose and mouth and diffusing it out. And I might put darker tones in there as well, but I'm using that essentially like a base and a color that I diffuse into the lighter part of the already existing alcohol marker base. Because that one, if you decrease the pressure, diffuses into the alcohol marker base pretty well. So I'm creating a bit of a dip around the eyes as well, because, eyes would have their cavitie, or, kind of just trying to give it a little bit more shape is essentially. I often feel that, I don't know, I have this thing with, that's a lot of why I'm not very good at manga either, and sometimes I struggle with Lulu Mayo, for example, is those, perfectly round, egg-shaped or kind of apple-shaped faces, and I want to give a little bit more to them, some sort of a shape or some sort of a movement. I just can't cope with this. I know it's silly. I know they're meant to be like this, I'm not saying that they're in any way wrong. It's just my perception kind of protests, and I want to put more into them that the artist has put in. And consequentially, I tend to overwork them and not really color them, the way they were possibly meant to be colored. So here I'm just, kind of diffusing that brown ochre, which is 182, a color I like and use a lot, which is one of the kind of lighter browns in the polychroma set. And as I've said, these colors are pretty rare in polychroma set, so I really reach for that one quite often. But there's really no good color to kind of blend that easily into, unless, your hand is pretty skilled, then you kind of can, diffuse things very easily. So, if I do want to just, put down proper gradient, I do supplement with other sets. Ivory would be kind of, it would work color-wise, this, but, the jump in the colors is just huge. So definitely would need something like beige, in between. I hope they're going to do that. That would simplify, especially for people who, are just learning to color and who really do need that gradient to get smooth blends. Once you are colored quite a while, you kind of learn to layer things and you learn to play with pressure, and you get pretty good results without really having, really good gradient already in pencil colors. Like you would preferably have them in alcohol markers, but even with alcohol markers, you can get around things. But, if you are just starting, this can be very hard. So I hope that they are going to release, some options, which would be essentially like, light beiges, and warm grays will also work. Like light warm grays, you can use them as beige, essentially. But I have to say that, for example, the warm beige, warm gray, like in this case, I'd prefer them to have something like French grays. A line is in Prismacolors. Like this is warm gray, and that essentially, diffuses things in. But I usually, don't even bother, because I've done it now long enough that I can essentially play with the shading pretty much like any color into any color. Literally, as far as pencils are involved anyway, you can do that. Once you've practiced enough and you've done it long enough, you can do that. Now this, sorry, I didn't mention to you, it is Bistro, and it is 179. Never remember the numbers. So I'm bringing that to the kind of a side of that brown ochre now, but to the more shadowy side. Yeah, putting a bit more shadows in. And here on the nose also, like I want this area, like immediately on top of the nose, be slightly darker, and then, kind of soften out to the top, which is already kind of there. So I'm just making this area here a bit sharper and diffusing it upwards with a kind of a gentle pressure release. And I'm starting to also darken the eye sockets here, like this. Putting a bit of a shadow underneath the eyebrows, just for funsies. Okay, I put it there already, but I'm strengthening that a bit. And now on the side of the face here, here we put the brown ochre down. So I want this kind of darker. So I'm putting it to the side, the shadow side of the brown ochre I put down, and then diffuse it very gently into brown ochre. You can do it either way. You can start with the dark and then move from dark to light. Often I would actually go for that, but for some reason, I don't even know why, I kind of went the opposite way here. And I don't know if I'm going to put a bit of a hair onto the bunny as well. I possibly will, but I'm going to kind of draw the shadows down first. So here we are. And here we are. And I'm going to also put a little bit more into the paws. Just, a bit of a more shape to them. There's going to be shadow here and shadow here. And here's the shadow as well. Yeah, pencils, it's a matter of practice. You know, it'll come to you. There is no huge secret to it. It literally is. You just need to do it until you get the feel for them. And I also have to warn you, as if that wasn't tricky enough. Sorry. That was my sharpener. I wanted that now. So I want to give a little bit of the impression of the hair. So I'm now thinking, you know, which direction is the hair moving from? And I sharpened that pencil now, and I'm just flicking in a little bit of texture, but I'm making it very gentle. I'm working now on top of the light area with that kind of a meat color, which is Bister. Just putting a little bit of a texture here. So it wouldn't be as kind of a smooth egg effect. I don't know if I can get you very close so you can see, you know, what I'm doing. So it's just a very, very gentle little flex over that light area. Okay. The one that is the lightest. And then from the underneath the chin, I'm coming up and I'm trying to kind of curve the little flicks following the curve of the face. So here the face is curving towards the nose, you know, so everything is going towards the nose, the hairs as well. Okay. So not like that. And then on the paws as well, just a little bit, but I'm doing it very gently. There is no pressure on the pencil. It is very subtle, that texture. And I find that actually kind of works the nicest. And here on the ears as well, just very subtle. And I'm not doing proper hair. I'm not working, you know, 15 layers of hair, which, you know, how you will get the more layers and the more flicks you put down. The more natural, the more realistic, the better the hair usually gets. You do it with a very sharp pencil and you just keep layering and layering and layering. And when you think you've done, you do more. Do you know what I mean? Whereas here, I'm just hinting at the hair, not trying to depict it, because it is a cartoon. Do you know what I mean? So we're not trying to be hyper realistic here, as you might notice. So before I do anything else, I will try to put a bit of a stronger blush onto the bunny's cheeks as well. So that's Rose Carmine, 124, and I'm just applying it gentle into already, you know, I had already dropped some pink into the cheeks. So the bunny might have a bit of a fever as well, so the cheeks are going to be pretty red. No. And afterwards, you know, I might put some white dots in there. Okay. That is done, I think. Here we go. And yeah, I don't think I'm diffusing it. Maybe I'm taking just a little bit of the dark flesh, which is 130. And I'm just diffusing it even more slightly outwards, so it would be softer. Sides. Now, it's just cute. Okay, and now I'm taking my, at the moment, darkest pencil. I might actually take darker pencil, and it's the Burnt Umber 280, I think, is that one? Yeah. Because it's the gold on the pencils that, especially on the lights like this, it is just so hard to read. And I'm now bringing it down as kind of like a bunny's shadow color. But I'm leaving a bit of a rim between the shadow and the edge of the creature or object. Not always, but in this case, I definitely will do that. because that white pillow alone is going to throw a bit of a reflected light onto the bunny. So I'm leaving, here you can see I'm tightening and making pretty much a strong stripe of that dark umber on the side of the head, like this. Here we go. And I'm bringing it pretty strong down here as well, because there's not much, everything is blocking the light here. So there needs to be good dark shadow here. Okay. And here the hand is kind of blocking the face a bit. So we're putting a good shadow there. And diffusing it a little bit into the bistre, the previous color. And I'm doing here the same thing. The parts that are kind of pretty much blocked by the light, by the curve of the face, and this blanket there as well. So it's going to be quite strong dark shadow here, keeping it very narrow and very tight and almost sharp next to the paw, because the paw is almost touching the face, and that means that the shadow is not going to be very big, and it's going to be not very diffused. It's going to be really sharp shadow. And here bringing it a bit upwards, putting a bit more shadow underneath the nose and underneath the mouth, so it would look cuter. If I wanted, I could create a little chin, but I don't know if I want to. It's not really working that well with the bunny. Putting a little bit more, once again, around the eye, but getting tighter and tighter as we're doing that. And here at the nose, creating that tiny little stripe and taking it upwards. And that gives an impression that there's a nose here, that's kind of protruding from the face a little bit. So that's what that shadow between the eyes is for. And now I'm taking that dark pencil and I'm bringing a bit, very, very gently, like I'm not overdoing it. I'm bringing some flicks of hair here and there, especially, where the shadow areas. I'm creating some flicks of hair there. And I'm also putting that burnt umber there in the shoulder and arm, so it would be darker. This bit here needs to be totally in shadow, so I'm making that very dark. And here as well, I'm putting shadow down, but I'm doing it in little flicks from the bottom, so I kind of also give tiny bit of an impression of a hair. Now, I'm not going to do much of it in the hamster and the cat, because they're very small and you won't really be able to see, on something that small from the big distance, or, from that distance, you wouldn't really see much of a hair texture. But because the bunny and the fox kind of have bigger elements, and they were like central characters, and they're they had pretty big heads, both of them. So I'm giving them a little bit of texture. As I'm saying, not overdoing it, but tiny bit here and there, and that's all you need to make them look pretty darn cute. Might darken those eyebrows a little bit as well. And now I have the white, and I don't know how well this is going to now work, but I'm also in the middle of all the other kind of little flicks. I am putting in between just a little bit. You probably won't show very well on the camera at all. Probably won't show even on the photo very well. This is a bit of bistre. I'm kind of evening out things a bit. The hair texture was there, but it was a bit haphazard and not good looking. So. And now, because I feel that the sunlight is kind of getting lost on Bunny a bit, I'm taking something brighter yellow. Might take this one. So that is light chrome yellow. And I am putting a bit more here on the side of the bunny's face. Just diffusing it in a bit, putting it to the side and then releasing the pressure. And that essentially kind of gives a bit more feel that the sunlight is falling onto the bunny as well. And here on this ear as well, Not that much because it is a little bit more away from the other ear, but this ear I'm trying to make pretty, you know, putting a good bit of yellow in there. And then going back with the Bistro and just putting some more flicks of hair back in there. So yeah, the more you flick, of course, and they need to be very gentle flicks, the more kind of real the hair looks. But once again, you are not drawing a realistic bunny here. So a bit of a tiny texture on the face, and this is Bistro now, okay. It's absolutely fine. But that problem is now, the issue with the, not issue, the polychromos white is just too transparent to show up on that lighter sort of a base we have here. So I'm taking Prismacolor white and I sharpened it to a very sharp point, which is usually not good for them, but I wanted. And it's not going to be super visible or super prominent, those little flicks. They just, if you look at it as a whole, it does look nicer that way. Okay, so I might put some in there as well. Okay, and some here on top of the paws. So there will be a bit more contrast. Now, and that's about it. Should I lighten the top here? Maybe go over the line art there is a little bit to kind of soften it. Maybe. No, I'm going to leave it as is. Okay, so that's the bunny. I think I consider it done, although now that I'm looking at the ears, they still annoy me. So I'm taking that dark red, which is 225, and I'm going to put a full stripe of strong color on one side, like this, just to give it a bit more dimension. The one just coming from the bottom didn't cut it for me, so to create a bit better shape and dimension, I just put some extra in. Okay, that's it. That's the bunny done. Not going to work her that much longer, and now we need to do something with these little. Now these ones I tried to do fairly simply because they are quite small, so if we try to put loads of hair into them, they just would look messy, to be honest. So I need to get for the cat. I actually wanted to warm a bit up, so I'm taking burnt sienna and I'm sharpening it because it's a small shape. So I'm going to put a little bit here where the tail is, and I'm flicking it upwards. So in a way, that flicking motion already creates an effect that, this cat has some hair. And here with the paw, I'm leaving tiny bit of once again, distance between the line and the shadow here. So, but I'm bringing it upwards. In this case, I'm starting essentially from the dark. I don't think I am taking anything much darker than that. And putting tiny bit of shadow here underneath the, where the ear is coming out from behind the head. A bit around the eyes and diffusing it upwards. A bit around the eyes and once again diffusing it upwards. I'm darkening the eyebrows. And also kind of very gently putting tiny shadows underneath them. And I'm doing it essentially with the same color. And here I'm, once again, now I'm putting down a line that comes to the side of the kitty's face. Like it doesn't touch the actual line art. It's a bit away, but I'm making it slightly squiggly. And that slightly squiggly is essentially depicting that, the kitty is hairy. So I'm not going to put hair texture onto the cat, but I am creating this kind of slightly ragged line here, that tells us that this is the cat has some hair, you know, there's some fluffiness going on there. And here, because, you know, this area is going to be more hit by the light, not where it's essentially coming out from the suitcase. But I'm not putting much of a shading here. Maybe a little bit just to depict the curve of the head, tiny bit, like this. No, and I'm changing, you know, this is me essentially. I'm trying to change the color a bit. So I'm also going to put some darkness behind now the head there. But I'm leaving a bit of a light between, you know, the butt of the cat and the tail. So there would be contrast there. And now I'm putting that away, the burnt sienna. And I'm taking terracotta and I'm also sharpening it. Grabbing it again. And now I'm bringing away from that initially created line, the burnt sienna line. I'm kind of flicking it upwards. And I'm flicking it because, as I said, you know, this cat is pretty small, so flicking motions usually work the best. And I'm flicking it here in the tail, creating a very little band outwards from the burnt sienna. And I don't know if I'm going to create a bit of a shadow here between the eyes. You know, I'm essentially creating a little muzzle effect here, you know, that there's a nose going on. So I'm taking it upwards from the top of the cat's nose, and you can see how this creates an effect, that there's a dip in the face there and the nose comes a bit forward. So I'm doing that with terracotta, which I'm essentially just diffusing into the existing base color, which is pretty light. But, you know, if you work gently, you can totally do that without any other colors to kind of create the gradient with. And as I said, it's a matter of practice. I'm going to put some white on top of that paw because I wanted it to be a bit brighter. So, yeah, they look a bit better. And now I'm taking the burnt sienna again, and now where I created that shadow, basically on top of the nose, I'm going to the bottom of it and darkening it slightly, and then diffusing it outwards, and it gives a better shape. And now our cat has a nose, okay? So that's how easy that was. We made a nose. And that's it. I am not going to do much else on the cat. I might put a little kind of a, you know, eventually when I'm white gel penning, I might put a little dots or little kind of artificial highlights here and there just for funsies. But I'm not going to overdo it. And now I need to put away all these. So I don't think I need the brown ochre. I sincerely hope so. I don't need them anymore. So I'm putting away these in my hand because they're now just distracting me. Here we go. And I'm sticking that into the yellows here. So that was light chrome yellow. Okay, and now I have my two whites still next to me. And I have now this hamster to do. And hamsters, I think I need to do the hamster's clothes as well. So I didn't put any extra shading into them, and they kind of want some. Okay, so the face. This one I'm going to try to keep quite simple, but I'm working with warm grays. And I'm taking the darkest of the warm gray I have here with me at the moment. Do I have anything darker? Yeah, I do. I have a warm gray 6 here as well. So I'm going to put the warm gray 6. Oops. That wasn't good. I actually want to... It broke and then it made a weird little line there that annoyed me. So I'm taking my eraser. I like this eraser the best. This is the Derwent one, but I like about it that it is rechargeable. You can see here. So, I don't have to worry about batteries and such. If it starts running low, I just stick onto the charger. Sadly, it's not USB-C, so it still needs to be micro USB cable you have, because most of my devices have now moved to USB-C. But that's one of the few ones that I still have to keep my micro USB cable here handy. But it doesn't ask for bread, so it's fine. So I put some shadow underneath that mirror here. Okay. And I will... And thank you, people who told me that this is stethoscope. I know it was funny when I kept saying listening thing. I could not remember for the life of me the word stethoscope. I don't know what was going on with my brain, but it was not good. But I remember now. And once again, I'm doing, now as I'm moving with the shadow, it's fairly sharp pencil. I am just moving downwards. So there's a little line, kind of a leaving a clean area between the line art and the shadow I'm putting down. And I'm making the shadow a bit squiggly again, like this. The edges of the shadow. So there's, as I said, I'm not planning to put loads of kind of hair texture onto this hamster. So kind of giving those edges a bit of a fluffy feel, giving a couple of hairs sticking out from that shadow, essentially already tells you that this is a fluffy animal. So you don't need to overdo it. Okay, so this bit is still pretty dark, and we're putting, once again, a little bit of a shadow over the eyes. This is not obligatory. This is actually quite a matter of the taste. I like it to kind of gives them a bit more expression, I feel. But some people don't, and that's absolutely okay. And here, the other paw, I'm putting a bit of a shadow in there as well. Now I'm taking warm gray 5, and I'm now gradually, very gradually moving tiny bit away, diffusing now the darker line, the warm gray 6, going inwards now from there, just to soften things. And here I don't want to create like little button nose effect like I did on these two. I essentially want to keep this area almost white here, the cheeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm grabbing now warm gray 4, and I'm going over the previous area with it, so it kind of blends and smoothes the previous colors as well. And I need a bit of a shadow. I forgot to put some shadow underneath the eyebrows. Okay. And do you see it well? Because it is, I understand, it's fairly small, and it's hard to get much bigger with my setup anyway. No, I can't get really much closer to it. I'm sorry. So I'm now basically bringing that warm gray 4. Yes, 4. I'm bringing it towards the center of the face. I'm putting some basically around the nose here, but I've left that white spot on top of the nose. I want to keep that white spot there, but I want to make the surrounding of that white spot a bit darker and then kind of diffuse it upwards like this. You see? So it kind of sticks out a bit. But I'm leaving this area in between light, so it kind of gives better effect. And maybe kind of create a bit of a roundness here the nose as well, but by giving a bit of a shadow here, like this, and here, underneath the white area also. There's going to be a tiny bit of a shadow. And now I'm looking for lighter colors of a warm gray. So just a second. I'm now getting warm gray 1, I think. I get the 2 as well, just in case, So doing the 2 first. Now going over the areas where I feel that it's slightly unblended. I'm not going on top of the darkest areas because I'm just, kind of taking the dark away from the, if I go over it too much. So I'm just diffusing the edges and also putting tiny bit of shadow now in the white. Just very little. Just softening things up. And now I'm taking the warm gray white. And once again, I'm just working over the area that is essentially the same color. Just kind of soften everything together. Because warm gray 1 is essentially the color that the hamster was initially the lighter area. The alcohol marker base would have been very close to that color because I always meant it to be gray. Now I can put these one. Oops, almost forgot. Here underneath the scrubs, its little feet. I'm just going to put a bit more kind of a shadow down. So it's just like a bit of a highlight of the toes showing. Just putting a bit more shadow there. But I'm not, doing several pencils there. It would be just kind of pointless. It's such a small, tiny little detail that it just gets lost. If I overwork it, I just take the sharpness of the shadow away. Now, oops, and here we need to do the little jacket or scrub of the, I presume it's are they both doctors? Is one of them nurse? She looks a bit like nurse, and he looks a bit like a doctor, I suspect. But somebody actually said to me, oh, I thought it was a lollipop, and now that I'm looking at it, it might actually have been a lollipop. And I did it as a magnifying glass. That's it is what it is. Okay, so need to put something onto the coat here. So I'm grabbing dark indigo, putting a bit under the arms. Once again, I'm not planning to overdo it, but I do want some contrast even on that little thing. Okay, putting a bit of a shadow underneath the button, creating a bit of a shadow on the pockets. So I'm just going over the bottom edge of the pockets, and then I'm diffusing it slightly upwards like this. And it already, kind of immediately makes them more 3D. So, as I said, I don't need to overwork it hugely. It is a fairly small area of the picture, and the whole point of having alcohol marker base is that your life with pencils is going to be much easier afterwards. I might put some of it onto this mirror as well to just darken the contrast there, and here also. Okay, and yeah, here I might have made the shadow of the bottom a bit too big, but hey, it is what it is. Putting a little bit of a shadow underneath the stethoscope thing as well. Yeah. And here the cuff of the scrub jacket or whatever you call it. And I'm being very gentle with that application here. I'm just bringing it in a very light shadow, almost not touching the paper. But, because the polys is so pigmented, even the light touch like this will give you good pigment output. And the same thing, I'm kind of going very gently over this area and then diffusing it to almost nothing. So already I think this jacket of his is looking fine. And I want to still diffuse it with a little bit something and kind of make it slightly different color, because at the moment they look very similar. So I thought, I don't want to bring in like very blue greens, but maybe a little bit. I'm taking light cobalt turquoise. Just changing a little bit the tone. I'm giving a little bit of extra to this jacket of his. So, kind of diffusing it outwards a bit from the areas where I put the dark indigo. So this is light cobalt turquoise, once again. In case you missed what I said. For some tutorials, if I actually do kind of like a proper, tutorial, which will be for element, not for the full page, I, will sometimes put the pencil names and stuff onto the screen. But it takes a lot of time in the editing. These videos are very work intensive. So, yeah, I just don't have that time often, I have to say. It's not about will that much. Often it is purely that you just don't have time. And now I'm taking, this is white Prismacolor actually, and that area that I left light between the shadows and the line art, I'm actually going to put a little bit of white in here in his case, kind of create some contrasts and brighten his outfit a little here as well, that kind of where I feel that it would actually benefit if I created on top of the pockets. And this is not that much about light even falling. It's just I'm trying to say that it's a lighter material that has a bit deeper shadows. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say with these extra application of Prisma white. And here on top of the fox, is it a doctor? Is it a nurse? Not a clue. Looks a bit like a nurse. That little watch thing, this is usually something that nurses would wear. Okay, I'm just, there was a little bit of a bleed here at the top of that white. It is a nurse headgear. So I'm just going to putting the white on top of it to clean it up. Okay, and maybe kind of, should I pull some white into those on top of these as well? But it doesn't really make a huge difference, but a little bit, yeah. Okay, so now I have pretty much most of it done. So I'm grabbing a cool gray, a fairly dark one, because we're dealing with the small elements here. So I'm taking cold gray 6 and I am sharpening it. There we go. And there's this cup, hospital cup, on the little table. So I'm putting some extra shadows into it, just darkening some areas with it. Most of the things are already down with, I already put them down with alcohol markers. So I'm just kind of strengthening some shadows as opposed to doing proper shading. So, wherever I feel that the shadow would be stronger, I'm just adding a little bit so it would look more shaded. And here, the bottom here, putting a bit more in. And even, that little addition that I just, put in with just one pencil, look how much better it already looks. And here, the same story. This is metal as well, so we want quite light areas with quite strong shadows. But that one was probably plastic here. So I'm not overdoing it. But, just a couple of little moves. And see, already it changed a bit. Now I am seeing that these little things want tiny bit of shadow. So I'm taking dark sepia and just putting some dark where there would be shadow, and I'm diffusing it very gently upwards. Those are very small elements, so I'm not going to overwork them. I'm just going to put it with one pencil, a bit of an extra shadow in them. And can you see how much it just improved it? And here with the plasters as well, I made them essentially the same color. So I'm putting tiny bit of shadow like in the areas, so they would look. And I'm also putting a little bit of a shadow underneath them. And it can't be big diffuse shadow because they would sit fairly flat on the floor. We just give them this very, very tight, sharp shadow. And same story here with the bandage. And I'm doing everything here with the same pencils, inside and, the shadows. And I'm putting a bit of a shadow inside it, and also a sharp shadow, which is slightly diffused, where the roll is over the flap that is sticking out. And then onto the roll, I'm very, very gently, and I mean super gently, creating essentially a stripe of color like this. You can strengthen it if you want it to be a bit, sharper, but that, gave it an instant shape. So not much work there, and just one pencil. Magic. And now we need to do, well, basically there's balloons to do, and those oranges. And a bit here at the top as well. The leaves are pretty much done. I might put, some dots into them just for highlights, but I want to put some extra. I might do that because I had the dark sepia in my hand. So I'm just creating that there would be like sharper shadow here. So it would give a little bit of a golden effect. So I just kind of ran a stripe of dark sepia on one side, leaving one side kind of here, kind of reflective, or, it also could depict that it's shiny. So it looks at the moment a bit like it's shiny, a bit of a golden element. And once again, just one pencil, done. No, I'm not overdoing it. And here, now we need to move on to the orange, the carrots, but I'm also going to do essentially the balloons, the same as carrots. So I seem to have put something into this balloon here. Some sort of a pencil, I've smeared something here. So it's pretty much gone now. It's fine. So I need a nice dark cadmium orange. And I need a scarlet red, which I am going to sharpen. And I need something like bright. Actually, for the balloons, the middle, I would need essentially like peachy tones. So maybe I'll go for the flesh. Yeah, the dark flesh would probably work pretty well. Yeah. And and the blanket will have these colors in it as well. And I need something darkish now, so I'm taking cadmium red, middle cadmium red. Okay, and I am taking the middle cadmium red. So this time I'm taking the darkest, and I'm working it once again. I'm leaving the reflective area here, but the bottom is going to be evenly dark. And I'm putting a little flick of it into the bit here also. And now I'm also bringing it to the top. And now I'm diffusing it slightly on the edge, so it would be easier to blend a different color onto it. And I'm also diffusing it slightly upwards here. Already the balloon has a bit of a shape. A bit of a more shape than it did anyway. And here I'm doing the same thing with this balloon. I'm leaving a bit of a reflective area there. And but also I need to make sure that I give a pretty good shadow, because those two balloons, other balloons in front of it, are going to create a bit of a shadow there, and slightly bring in like this upwards, but in a diffused way, not in a strong way, and creating here the top, and then making sure that the edges are nice and diffused. So that's done. I'm now taking the scarlet red, was it? Yeah, 118. And now I'm going into that diffused area and filling that in with that color, and then bringing it out once again in very diffused way. So here we work pretty gradually, like the classic blending, classic kind of a gradient way almost. Sometimes I kind of ignore how we're supposed to color and just do it my way and simplify it myself and for others, because you don't always have to use like 4 pencil or 3 pencil gradients. You can sometimes achieve the same thing with 2 pencils, so why not do it? And now I'm taking also the orange, so that's dark cadmium orange, and also again I'm going over that area here, and now I'm bringing it very slightly to this side as well, and diffusing it outwards, and doing the same thing here, going over the area that is kind of, I diffused the scarlet red into, so I'm going over the scarlet red and very, very lightly bringing it outwards as well. I mean, very lightly. And now I'm taking dark flesh, which is, it's not ideal. No. Yeah, the peaches here, or, well, it'll have to do. I don't want to go looking for a different set, for the color I'm actually would prefer here, but that one will do. So I just wanted warmer peach. I know Prismas have warmer peaches, but I don't want to go there. And now I'm taking that dark flesh, which is 130. I'm going over the cadmium orange with it, and then taking it full way through the middle, and I'm just making sure that if I left the white spots there, that I do not touch these. And at the top, I'm just going over already the colors I put there, and slightly the middle as well. And if I feel that, some of the shadow or some of the darkness got lost, then I'm grabbing the middle cadmium red, which is 217 again, and I'm just, might accentuate some of the shadows a little bit more if I feel like it. This is more of an example what I can do, then you need to do that. And if you want to create kind of sharper effect here with the shadow, you can take this is now polychromos white, and you can put it very gently here into the rim lighting or the reflected light area. This is not obligatory, this is when you want kind of sharper effect. And you might now take that white and put a bit of that over your dark flesh in the center. You can go over with white a bit to kind of lighten and make sure that it looks shiny. That's my main thing here. Them's shiny balloons, so giving them really nice kind of a white area, or pretty sharp contrast, is going to make them look more shiny. So, and this is how I would do, and then afterwards I will strengthen those white dots here with white gel pen, most likely. So now I'm taking the carrots. And, you know, the drink, I can do the same thing. You know, I'm dropping a bit of the middle cadmium red here and there. And there's no rhyme or reason really for that. Just literally drop it here and there, but don't overdo it, especially with the dark one. Just, you know, put it into some areas. With the carrot here again, like doing it the lazy way, I'm essentially taking a stripe like this from the top to the bottom. Literal stripe like this. And now I am taking that stripe, and where the kind of grooves are, I'm rounding the bottom here, you know, this area like this, and bringing it to meet the groove that RJ has put down for me. So it creates like little rounded shapes. And now I'm diffusing the edges of that stripe I put down on the top a bit. And technically, I could leave it as that. But, you know, sometimes I just want it like extra, you know, look orangey, more orange. So I take the dark cadmium orange. There we go, and just diffusing that upwards as well. And that makes it look kind of more orange. And then I will also take the white, which is polychromos white. And I might just lighten the little details on the carrot and see how easily it was taken now to the 3D. And this is the chrome oxide green, and I'm just going to put at the bottom of these a little bit of dark, and maybe, you know, here at the bottom as well in a scribbly way. And that's it. I'm not doing anything more with that. And here we have another carrot. So I'm once again taking the middle cadmium red. And this time, because the light is coming from here, I'm taking that stripe down from this side. I'm giving it a bit of a shape. So I'm bringing little half, like a fourth of a circles down tightly onto the top of these grooves, so the grooves would look a bit more 3D and deliberate on my part. Diffusing the color a bit towards the sunlight side, and taking now once again the dark cadmium orange, diffusing it outwards a bit so it would look a bit more orange. And now I'm taking the white, and I'm just running that white to this side at least, so it would look kind of more contrasty. And if I feel like, I can also put tiny bit of white to the side, so, you know, the whole thing looks more rounded. And that's about it. And now, of course, forgot the chrome oxide green, just flicking it upwards from the literally tiny area. So I'm not usually wasting much time here. Kind of trying to make it. And the shadows are already down, but I might take the dark warm gray, which is warm gray 6, and just running an extra shadow. Diffusing it slightly outwards, but running an extra shadow behind the carrot here. And running an extra shadow behind the picture frame here, you know, because the light is coming from this way and the picture frame is throwing a bit of a shadow onto the background. So I'm just kind of sharpening it a bit. I'm making it stronger. And that already gives you a pretty good effect. Not overdoing it. Once again, don't complicate your life overly. And now the blanket. Now we already did the stripes, the red stripes. I am going to kind of throw some white polychromos on some highlighty areas a little bit onto those stripes. Just not obligatory, but I just think it looks all right. And I'm taking a middle cadmium red. And this blanket, because it's a bit fuzzy and I don't want it to be like super uniform or anything, so I am sticking that middle cadmium red here and there where there would be a bit of a more shadowy areas, I guess. Well, here it would be totally in shadow, for example. And I'm now taking the scarlet red, and I'm bringing that a bit upwards, but I'm not doing it in very even, soft way. I'm trying to randomize. Oops, I forgot to put the middle cadmium red in these areas, you know, where there's definitely going to be shadow because of the little feet that are showing here as a bump. So just, you know, here and there. There we go. It's just kind of more so than trying to make it super shaped, because the shape is already down. Now, give it a bit of texture and interest, those squares, you know, extra. Because we could have gotten away without really putting much there at all, pencils-wise. But in most instances, I tend to do something. And now I'm taking the dark cadmium orange and essentially bringing it mostly upwards, because I do want them to be orange. No. So, and here as well. It just looks a bit better like this. And now I need to find something that would work for me, like dark yellow. So I'm taking burnt ochre, which is 187. So I'm using that as the dark of the yellow. And I'm just adding some kind of a fuzz into the blanket with it as well. And also in some, like there was a bit of a bleed here. So I'm essentially creating, not very logical, but I'm creating a bit of a shadow here. So I can cover up or kind of diffuse that stain of red or orange or whatever I had there. Just a bit of an area where the sheet is slightly throwing a shadow onto the duvet. Here it's going to be pretty dark because it's behind the, here this top is going to be pretty light. These bits here are going to be literally dark, so I'm covering them fully with the burnt ochre. Here I'm putting the burnt ochre down kind of like halfway, because it's going to get some light from the sun there. And now I think I'm done with the burnt ochre. I'm moving now into the yellows, and I might see if I can do the dark cadmium yellow. Like I would need something in between, but to be honest, I'm not going to be particularly bothered. Like I don't want to get too heavily invested in this blanket. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So I'm just putting that dark cadmium yellow here. Let's just smooth these things out a little bit. It's not going to be ideal, but we're not looking for ideal. And now actually, one thing that I forgot is that we need to do the balloons. We just did 2 of the balloons. I was like, oh, we're almost done. It's like, nope, we are not. So I am going to also do the yellows now. So I'm taking the burnt ochre again. And once again, I'm doing the kind of a reflected light here on the side. So I'm leaving that untouched. And I'm diffusing it gently outwards. Now I'm trying to kind of be gentle about them, but I think I might need to put some orange in there as well as a kind of like a step. Yeah, here I'm actually not going to create the reflected light because of the way I had already put them down fairly dark there at the edge, the alcohol marker. Yeah, I'm taking the cadmium orange as a step into yellow from here, because I don't think it would look very nice if I put just the dark cadmium yellow direct into it. So I'm putting a tiny bit of that onto the side here as well. Up here. Here the same story on the sides. And now I'm going to take the dark cadmium yellow, and this way we're going to get a nice yellow balloon. Basically, I was mixing the cadmium orange. Is it cadmium orange with a burnt ochre, and that gave me that kind of a darker yellow that I wanted. And here I'm going to the top as well. And now I'm taking the white again. And I'm going to kind of make a nice bright white in a light spot at the top. Just, you can layer the white, until you feel happy with it. And here as well, but here I'm just having, because there's pretty strong shadows there, there's only this little bit of a curved area that will get hit by the light. But I did put some white in there. Now I won't put kind of reflected white bits in it because that one probably wouldn't get them. And now we need to do, I think it's two last things now, and those are the balloons here. And then we can move on to gel pens. And I have the green. I think I am going to use because we already used on this page the chrome oxide green, but I am going to be gentle with it because it's pretty dark. And so let's not overdo it. So creating, and here putting it into the bottom of the balloon as well, making the bottom here pretty dark because that's where the balloon would usually be darker because it's not as full of air and as stretched as the other parts of the balloon, so they usually would be darker there. The color would be more intense. And diffusing it outwards once again super gently because that is a dark pencil. So no pressure. And taking it slightly, very gently, like super gentle flicks upwards here as well. And I'm just doing the other one now in the same go. It just, goes easier and faster that way for myself. And once again, I'm creating a bit of a gentle rim there. And then I'm diffusing the color inwards. Here we go. Here we go. I'm diffusing that one as well, just tiny bit like this. Okay, and now we need to find colors that would work well with it. So let's take the earth green yellowish. And I'm now going over the chrome oxide green. And of course diffusing it once again, slightly upwards and outwards. And this one is going to be once again one of those balloons that is going to have this kind of a curved highlight. So I'm also going to give the top of it with the lighter color now, with the earth green yellowish. I'm going to give some shape from the top as well. And here I'm going to that balloon that is exposed to the light, and I'm diffusing it inside, but I'm also going to put a tiny bit of it to the sides here now, because we do need to kind of create a shape. Okay. Just going over the edges like this. And actually this one might be too dark. May green. Let's see, if it's too dark, I will replace it with something. Or I might just, try to do it mostly with that and then go into the middle with white, which I suspect is what I'm going to do. So that's May green, and it is 170. It has this sticker, it's a replacement one, and I hate when I forget to take them off, and then they kind of irritate my fingers almost. I don't know what it is about me. Textures can be a problem. Okay, taking that. No. And I'm leaving that middle as is. I'm not taking it totally over the whole middle part. And now I'm taking the white and putting it down here first. So in the area which I didn't touch, I'm just going gently now. Don't put high pressure, but layer. I'll go over it many times, but not with hard pressure. And here the same story. Start from the middle and kind of diffuse it outwards and create this light area, which also kind of gently now, because you're moving outwards with it gently. It smoothes out everything, and it also creates a nice brighter light spot. And these balloons totally look like they're shiny. Just to wait a minute when we put in the little bits of a gel pen, and you will see. Okay, so now I am putting these ones away before everything will drop. Yeah, I have this thing that I really prefer not to have loads of pencils falling off my desk if I can. I tend to keep putting them away, even if I'm in the middle of the work, because I don't really care if it's going to be exactly 100% the same color. If I need to achieve the same color, I can always mix them up. So, yeah, I don't have this problem with whips that, the pencils would have to stay out while I'm whipping. Yeah, because I rarely ever use the same pencils again, the same compost, even if they are next to each other. I just play with them until they work. The color variations. Now, let's see now how's it going. Now this is how the full image looks like. Now we will move in with gel pens. And the first gel pens are, of course, going to be white. Gel pens do work in, that's individual, okay. But to me, gel pen is often a better option than acrylic pen. It's just often kind of brighter. So I'm going to, work from the top to the now, and I'm going to put sharpening those highlights on the balloons. Maybe put a tiny bit here as well. Yeah, that gives all right. Okay, here I had forgotten to put the pencil in, so where I left the highlight, I'm just softly kind of softening it with polychromos white here at the bottom. And I will also now start putting gel pen in kind of random spots where I think there might be kind of either something to accentuate or, you know, something too shiny. So I'm putting little bits here on that honeycomb thing. I think the metal thing there on the top might be shiny. Now I will need actually in most of the things now the finer gel pen. So wait a second, I'm going to get it going. This might not be Langua, but it's kind of identical to Langua there, you know, needle tip 0.6 millimeter gel pen. So I will maybe kind of drop some color here. Now with the gel, often what happens is when you, especially if it's going out from a very thin needle like this, that at first it looks like there's almost nothing there, but once it kind of dries and develop, you can see the effect. So here, let me I probably should have you a bit closer so you can possibly see a bit better. So you can see already it's starting to now dry, and I'm just putting almost dots and little, a bit haphazard, slightly randomized broken squiggles on top of the bunny's ears here inside the lines. And that just gives a bit of interest, also creates a textural effect. And it works better as a highlight for the ears than if I did kind of a stripe down the ears. And I'm not going, you know, totally down here because that's going to be a bit darker area. And if I get some of the dots onto the line art, that's even better. That kind of gives an effect that, you know, there's some textural hair going on there. And I'm going to go and do the same thing here, kind of like broken squiggles, little dots on the side of the face inside the line art, while maybe getting some dots onto the line art. So this is what I'm doing. And I'm putting tiny dots inside the eyes as well. Tiny dot inside the nose. And there's little dots here too on the face. Now, I don't know if I'm going to try to make those whiskers white. I often find that they actually look better if I don't do that. But one good thing about gel pens is that you can take it off. So get it going. I should have done that off the paper. I'm moving gently over this and now I have to concentrate, so I'm quiet, trying to get them actually look white. You know, and then they wouldn't look horrible and clumsy. That actually can be a bit of a challenge. You know, whiskers would be actually white, but I think I actually got them down pretty all right. Okay, and maybe I'll put some more dots around them. Kind of create a bit better effect. And here, once again, little squiggles, but I'm putting them inside the lines and maybe some dots on the line. Kind of into the line slightly. I don't know if you can see close here what I'm doing. You know? If you get very close, it looks randomized, but, you know, looking from a distance, it gives a bit more interesting highlighted effect. But, you know, these should only be in kind of a lighter areas. And as I said, I do not want to cover the line art here. I literally want to just maybe add some little extra detailing. Okay, so here's this one, kind of creating a bit of a highlight here on top of this. This one might be metal, so I gave it a bit of a dot, you know, maybe it's shiny slightly. And I'm leaving the texture of the window alone. Now I'm going to this side. So I'm moving from up to down with putting down the gel pen, especially if I just plan to put down. And I might, if I wanted to, I could put tiny little, like half. And once again, I'm not covering the line. I'm going inside the line with slightly kind of maybe a bit of a curved line of white. Give some extra little highlighting for the leaves. This, once again, is not, absolutely not obligatory, and is a matter of taste. If you want to put it down or not. You might not like it, in which case you can absolutely skip it. There we go. There we go. And there we go. I don't know why I suddenly decided to make them, but hey, there we are. So I'm going to put a little bit of extra into the carrot as well. And it's just little white, like dots, essentially, on one side. And here I kind of wanted to put something into the leaves at the top as well, because there was a little bit of a bleed there, so the pencils wouldn't really go over it. So I'm just kind of sharpening the tops of the the leaves a bit there, which had gotten a bit lost. Now, what else do we need to do now with the fox? The same thing, maybe a little bit of light dots and squiggles inside the line. Maybe some of the dots kind of slightly getting onto the line. In some areas, oops, not like this. Just like little tiny dots here and there, and they kind of look like hair a bit. And here as well, especially kind of here in the light area. I don't know if you can see, this is supposed to be kind of like whitish area, but the line art is pretty thick. But I don't want to take out the line art, but I'm taking tiny, and I mean tiny little flicks from the light area at the bottom into the line art while not going through totally. I don't know if you can see here. And from the distance, this totally looks like there's, fluffy hair there, without me really covering the lines. Adding a bit of an extra. This is once again super individual and is not obligatory by any means. Dropping tiny dots into the eyes. That almost always wakes up the image almost immediately. Putting a little bit of white on top of the eyebrows. So they would come forward a bit more. A dot of white on top of the thumb here. Should I put these ones? Might make these whiskers white as well. No, I did the bunny, so I need to do the... I guess I need to do the fox as well. Like, this is usually quite hard to do, so it would look good. Well, I find it pretty hard to do, so it looked good. But it also, why I do it gel pen rather than acrylic medium of any sort, if I really hate it, once it's dry, it's very easy to just take off with your fingernail. That's, one of the things that I like about gel. Even if I'm not happy with the detailing I did, I can just take it off very easily. And it's better to do once it's dry, because then it won't leave any residue, it won't smear, you can just take a fingernail and essentially gently scratch it off. And this nurse's cap thing, I'm going over the top of it a bit with the white gel pen, because I felt that the top was, I didn't really like the really strong black outline there, so now it is kind of, I think it looks better that way. Anyway, that was the main point here. Okay, so here we have the magnifying glass. So I'm giving it a couple of kind of little sparkles or lines to kind of make it a bit more glass looking. I'm cleaning the top of this where the color had bled a little bit. I'm putting little dots of white gel pen into those buttons, which makes them automatically shiny. Little bits of into the shinier areas of the gold here as well, just so it would look nice. And tiny bit maybe here on top, and a couple of dots here and there onto the costume. This is just kind of a, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but it just looks fun, so I'm doing it. Maybe it's a slightly glittery costume. Who knows? Now I'm putting a bit of the white gel pen onto that mirror here, so the edge of it would be kind of extra sharp. And I think I'm going to leave most of the doctor alone. I might put some dots onto the doctor as well. This is purely for funsies. And here, just putting some white gel pen in some areas, kind of, to create some extra, glassy effect. I'm not going to go overboard with this element. And here also, I probably should put some three-dimensional gel pen onto that button, like 3D glaze pen. And here on the cat, tiny dots in the eyes, and I mean tiny, a little dot in the nose. Sorry. And I don't think we need much more here, to be honest. Just accentuating the handle a little bit. Oh, and maybe a little bit of a white dots here on the carrot as well, just kind of to give it extra contrast. And maybe have a little bit of that white dotting on the blanket. Just kind of give it a, I don't know, interest. And make them a bit different sizes and random. And I probably will take a couple of other colors of gel pens and put those in there as well. It just make it look a bit more interesting, I think. Let me find the gel pens, and I also need to find a sparkly gel pen for that. Well, I think it's actually, to be honest, a lollipop, but I got it wrong and made it into a magnifying glass. Oh well, it is what it is. Let's see, we have... We need something. Oops. Dropping things. So I'm taking a red gel pen, which actually isn't Languor, it's Mocha. They kind of came out around it's one of the very early ones. So I'm putting some red gel pen dots into the orange area. Just the little random ones. I'm not being uniform with them or anything. I'm just creating for myself some interest for that blanket, because I think it looks a bit bland. And one thing that I find that most of the gel pen sets don't have are good oranges. Like, there's very few oranges, and they're not usually great selection. So I'm going to activate it on the side here, and I'm going to drop some of the orange dots onto the yellow squares. And that also, I had a couple of little bleeds here in the blanket, and to be honest, why I'm putting some of the texture in there is also to get rid of, kind of disguise. So it would look like it was supposed to be there. Yeah, And that pretty much, gave me the effect I wanted. I don't want to overdo it. So I'm sticking that back into the box for myself where I keep my gel pens. Okay, and I will need a shiny gel pen, or well, gel pen is better probably here. And in a minute, I'm going to get to it. Underneath other stuff, because of course it was. Okay, so here we go. My moving things around. Okay. There we are. I'm sure that I'm forgetting something, in which case I humbly apologize. None of us are perfect. Here's my sparkly stuff bucket. And I need probably gold. I'm going to put around it. It's probably gold because it's very warm image. So might as well do it with gold. Let me see if I can find a good gold. Or maybe I can go kind of like a bronze. Yeah, these are lovely. The Pentel Jewel. Those are Jewel, yeah? Yeah, Jewel metallic pens. So I'm going to now just go over it. And these are really nice and sparkly. Oh yeah, it was definitely a lollipop now that I'm looking at the shape of it and the fact that it has little kind of like a tied up piece at the bottom. Yeah, it was a lollipop. But hey, it is what it is. Now, and I think we are pretty much there. What do you think? I think it came out pretty cute. And although there was 4 parts of this video, if you actually look at, everything we did here and the light effects and that, it wasn't like that long of a process. So, thank you very much for watching. If you stuck with me, yay! And hope you had a good time. Hope maybe you found something to take away to your own pages. And once again, stay happy, stay healthy, have loads of creative time, and bye-bye.